My beloved child, before you continue with your day, be still for a moment. Because there is a reason these words have found you now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. Now. I know the questions you have been carrying in your heart. I know the moments when you wondered if someone still thinks about you when the world becomes quiet. I know the nights when a memory suddenly appeared and you asked yourself if this connection was ever truly over. I know the silent prayers you never spoke out loud. I know the moments when you looked toward heaven and whispered, if this person still cares, please give me a sign. And today I want you to listen carefully, because something is happening behind the scenes that you cannot yet see. Someone has been carrying your memory much more deeply than you realize. A few days later, they unexpectedly saw your birth month written somewhere. It was a small thing, something another person might have ignored, yet it immediately brought your memory back. They paused, they became quiet, and for the rest of the day, they could not stop thinking about you. My beloved child, this was the first revelation. They are beginning to realize that your memory has never truly left them. Then came another moment. Someone mentioned a city, a place, or a detail connected to you. Again, your image appeared in their mind. Again, they found themselves asking questions they had buried for a long time. Why are they still thinking about you? Why does your memory still affect them? Why does it feel as though this connection was never completely finished? They tried to distract themselves. They kept busy. They focused on other things. Yet every distraction somehow led back to you. They opened old messages and almost searched for your name. They stopped themselves. They told themselves it meant nothing. Yet deep down they knew something had changed. Then another unexpected sign appeared. They heard your name, or a name that sounded so similar to yours that it made them stop in the middle of what they were doing. For a few seconds, they simply stood there, lost in thought. Memories returned one after another. A conversation, a smile, a moment they thought they had forgotten. And suddenly they realized something that made them uncomfortable. No matter how much time had passed, your memory still carried emotion. And then came the second revelation. They began to understand that certain feelings do not disappear, simply because time has passed. They began to realize that what they felt for you was different, deeper, more meaningful than they admitted before. There have been nights recently when they could not sleep because your memory returned without warning. They wondered what you are doing, whether you are happy, whether you still think about them, whether there is still something unfinished between you. They have not spoken these questions aloud, but their heart has been asking them anyway. My child, while you have been wondering whether you were forgotten, another heart has been remembering more than it intended. Then something else happened. Someone unexpectedly asked them a simple question. Is there anyone you still think about sometimes? It was an ordinary conversation, yet the question stayed with them. They tried to answer quickly, they tried to smile and move on. But something inside them froze because your memory immediately came to mind. They did not expect that. They did not plan for that. And for the rest of the day, they could not stop thinking about why. Why, after all this time, does your memory still arrive so easily? Why does your presence still live somewhere deep inside their heart? Why do they still feel something they cannot explain? This became another revelation. They may have become quiet. They may have stepped away. They may have convinced themselves that the story was over. But their heart never fully agreed with that decision. Their heart continued carrying memories, feelings, and unanswered questions. Recently they have been thinking about moments that once seemed small but now feel important. They remembered a conversation you had together. They remembered the way you understood certain parts of them that others never seemed to understand. They remembered a feeling of comfort that has been difficult to replace. Then another unexpected sign appeared. They dreamed of you again. This time the dream was shorter, but the feeling remained even after they woke up. They could not explain why it affected them so deeply. They simply knew that something inside them had changed. This became the third revelation. They are beginning to question choices they once thought were final. They are beginning to question the distance they created. They are beginning to wonder whether silence truly solved anything at all. Because what they discovered next was not just another memory. It was the beginning of a decision. A decision they never planned to make. A decision that may change everything they thought they understood about this connection. And somewhere, deep inside their heart, a quiet voice has started asking a question they can no longer ignore. What if this story is not over yet? My beloved child, after that question appeared, something inside them became impossible to ignore. For a long time, they believed they had all the answers. They believed they understood why the distance happened. They believed they had accepted everything and moved on. But now they are no longer so certain. Now they find themselves returning to the same thoughts over and over again. What if they misunderstood their own heart? What if they walked away from something that still carries meaning? What if the reason your memory keeps returning is because this connection was never truly finished? Recently, they have become quieter than usual. There have been moments when people around them noticed that something seemed different. They smiled less. They became lost in thought more often. Sometimes they stared out a window or sat in silence for no obvious reason. Yet there was a reason. They were thinking about you again. One evening they found themselves looking through old photographs and memories. They were not searching for you specifically. They had no intention of thinking about the past. But then something reminded them of a moment connected to you. They paused. They became quiet. They stayed there longer than they expected, and for the first time in a very long while, they allowed themselves to remember everything without trying to push it away. They remembered how easy certain conversations felt. They remembered laughing with you. They remembered moments that made them feel understood. They remembered things about you that they thought they had forgotten. And then another realization appeared. No matter how much time had passed, these memories still carried emotion. My beloved child, this was another revelation. They are beginning to understand that some memories stay alive because they are connected to something deeper than ordinary feelings. Then another unexpected sign appeared. Someone spoke about second chances. It was a simple conversation. Nothing dramatic, nothing unusual. Yet those words stayed with them for the rest of the day. Second chances. The idea kept returning to their mind, and before they realized it, they were thinking about you again. They wondered whether some people are meant to return to our lives. They wondered whether some stories are meant to have another chapter. They wondered whether silence and distance were ever truly the end. My child, these questions have been growing stronger. There have been nights recently when they could not sleep because thoughts of you returned once again. They wondered where you are. They wondered whether your life has changed. They wondered if you still think about them from time to time. Then, something else happened. They had another dream. This dream felt different. In the dream there were no words, yet there was a feeling of closeness. There was a sense of peace. There was a strange feeling that this connection still exists somewhere beyond the silence. When they woke up, they felt emotional. They tried to ignore it. They tried to tell themselves it was just a dream. Yet the feeling stayed. It remained with them throughout the day. And this became another revelation. They are beginning to understand that your memory no longer feels like the past. It feels unfinished. It feels unresolved. It feels like something their heart still wants to understand. My beloved child, there have been moments recently when they almost searched for your name. Moments when they almost typed a message. Moments when they almost followed the feeling growing inside them. But then fear appeared. What if too much time has passed? What if you no longer care? What if they are too late? These fears still exist, yet another feeling now exists beside them. Hope. A quiet hope that refuses to disappear. A hope that perhaps you still remember. A hope that perhaps your heart still carries some of the same questions. A hope that perhaps this connection still means something to you too. And because of this hope, something inside them has started changing. They are becoming more honest with themselves. They are becoming less afraid of what they feel. They are beginning to admit something they never expected to admit. They miss you. Not just the memories, not just the past. You. They miss the feeling of your presence. They miss the conversations. They miss the comfort they once felt. And this realization frightened them at first, because it means they can no longer pretend that nothing remains. My beloved child, there are moments in life when the heart grows tired of hiding from the truth. Your soulmate is entering one of those moments now. The walls they built around their emotions are becoming weaker. The answers they once thought were certain no longer feel certain. The distance they once believed was necessary no longer feels like the right choice. And because of that, another question has begun appearing more and more often. What if reaching out changes everything? That question has followed them into quiet evenings. It has followed them into ordinary days. It has followed them into dreams. And every time it returns, they become a little less afraid and a little more honest about what they truly feel. Because what is happening inside them now is no longer just curiosity. It is no longer just memory. It is becoming a decision. A decision they never expected to face. A decision that may bring hidden feelings into the light sooner than either of you expect. My beloved child, after that realization, something changed in a way they could no longer ignore. The questions that once appeared only occasionally now followed them everywhere. They appeared during ordinary moments. They appeared during quiet evenings. They appeared in the middle of busy days. They would suddenly stop what they were doing and think about you again. They would hear a familiar phrase and remember a conversation. They would pass a certain place and feel a memory returning. They would see something simple, something small, and somehow it would lead back to you. At first they tried to dismiss these moments. They told themselves they were meaningless. They told themselves they were simply remembering the past. But deep inside they knew something was different. These memories no longer felt like the past. They felt alive. They felt present. They felt like unfinished words, waiting to be spoken. My beloved child, there have been evenings recently when they sat alone and allowed themselves to think about everything honestly for the first time. They remembered moments that once seemed ordinary but now feel precious. They remembered the comfort of your presence. They remembered feeling understood in ways that are difficult to explain. They remembered things about you that made them smile without even realizing it. And then, another realization appeared. They have not found that same feeling anywhere else. This thought surprised them. It made them quiet. It made them wonder why your memory still carries so much emotion. Then another unexpected sign appeared. Someone said that certain people come into our lives at the wrong moment, only to return later when both hearts are finally ready. It was just a simple conversation, yet those words stayed with them. They thought about you again. They thought about everything that happened. They thought about whether fear and uncertainty may have influenced choices they once believed were right. My child, this became another revelation. They are beginning to understand that not every ending is permanent. Some stories pause. Some feelings wait. Some connections remain alive in ways we do not understand until much later. There have been nights recently when they could not sleep because another question entered their heart. What if meeting you changed them more than they realized? They thought about the person they were before they knew you. They thought about the person they became afterward. They thought about lessons they learned, feelings they discovered, and parts of themselves they came to understand because of this connection. And slowly they began to see something they had never seen before. You were never just another person in their story. You became part of their growth. You became part of their memories in a way that time could not erase. Then something else happened. They came across something online that reminded them of you. It was a simple image, a phrase, or perhaps a story that sounded strangely familiar. Yet, it stayed with them for the rest of the day. They could not explain why. They simply knew that your memory had returned once again. And this time, they did not push it away. They allowed themselves to sit with the feeling. They allowed themselves to ask the questions they had avoided for so long. What if this connection still matters? What if there is still something left unsaid? What if the reason they cannot let go is because a part of their heart never wanted to? My beloved child, these questions are changing them. They are making them more honest with themselves. They are making them look at the past differently. They are making them realize that the feelings they once tried to bury are still there. And recently they imagined something they had not imagined in a very long time. They imagined hearing your voice again. They imagined having a conversation with you. They imagined what it would feel like to know how you are doing. These thoughts surprised them because they never expected to revisit these possibilities. Yet here they are, wondering, remembering, reflecting. And every day, it becomes a little harder to pretend that none of it matters. Then another unexpected sign appeared. They had another dream. In the dream, there was no confusion and no fear. There was only a feeling of peace and a strange sense that your paths are not as distant as they seem. When they woke up, they remained quiet for a long time. Something about that dream stayed with them. Something about it felt important. My child, dreams have a way of revealing what the heart has been trying to say. And this dream revealed another truth. Deep inside, they still carry hope. A small hope. A quiet hope. A hope they have tried to ignore. A hope that perhaps one day, this silence will make sense. A hope that perhaps this story still has another chapter, waiting to be written. There have been moments recently when they almost reached out. They almost searched for your name. They almost typed a message. They almost followed the feeling inside them. But then fear returned. What if too much time has passed? What if you no longer care? What if they are too late? Yet despite those fears, something else now exists beside them. Courage. A quiet courage that did not exist before. A willingness to consider possibilities they once refused to think about. My beloved child, your soulmate is standing in a place they never expected to reach. They are standing between silence and truth, between fear and honesty, between holding on to the past and stepping towards something they cannot yet fully understand. They are beginning to realize that some people never truly leave our hearts. They are beginning to understand that some connections remain alive because they still have something to teach us. And they are beginning to accept something that once frightened them. They never truly forgot you. They never truly stopped caring. They never truly found a way to close this chapter inside their heart. Because what is happening inside them now is no longer just memory. It is no longer just curiosity. It is becoming clarity. It is becoming understanding. And most of all, it is becoming a decision. A decision they never planned to face. A decision that may bring hidden feelings into the light, sooner than either of you expect. Because what they are about to understand next is not simply that they miss you. It is that a part of their heart has been waiting for the courage to finally admit the truth all along. My beloved child, after all these months of questions, memories, signs, and unexpected dreams, something finally began to change inside your soulmate, in a way they could no longer ignore. For a long time they believed that silence was protecting them. They believed that creating distance was helping them move forward. They believed that if they never looked back, the feelings would eventually disappear on their own. But now they understand something different. Silence did not erase the connection. Distance did not remove the memories. Time did not take away what they felt. Instead, everything they tried only brought them back to the same truth. You still matter to them. Recently, they found themselves doing something they never expected. They almost reached out. They almost searched for your name again. They almost typed a message. Their hands paused for a long moment. Their heart was beating faster than usual. They looked at the screen and imagined what they would say if they had the courage to speak honestly. They imagined asking how you have been. They imagined hearing your voice again. They imagined a simple conversation that could answer so many questions they have carried for so long. But then fear appeared once more. What if too much time has passed? What if you no longer care? What if reaching out changes everything? So they put the phone down. Yet something was different this time. The thought of reaching out did not disappear. It remained with them. A few days later, another unexpected moment happened. Someone close to them spoke about regret. They said that one of the heaviest feelings in life is wondering what might have happened if we had been brave enough to follow our heart. Those words stayed with your soulmate. They followed them for the rest of the day. They followed them into the evening. They followed them into another sleepless night. And suddenly, another question appeared. What if remaining silent becomes their greatest regret? My beloved child, this question changed everything, because for the first time, they stopped asking whether they still think about you. They already know the answer to that. They stopped asking whether the memories still matter. Instead, they began asking a new question. What should they do about it? There have been moments recently when they smiled while remembering you. There have been moments when they became emotional because of a memory they thought had faded. There have been moments when they felt grateful that they knew you at all. And there have also been moments when they felt sadness because they now realize how important this connection truly was. Then another sign appeared. They had one final dream. This dream felt different from all the others. In the dream there was no confusion, no fear, and no distance. There was only peace. There was only a feeling that something between you remains unfinished. They woke up with tears in their eyes and a strange sense of calm in their heart. They could not explain it. They simply knew that something inside them had shifted. This became the final revelation. They are no longer running from their feelings. They are no longer pretending that the connection meant nothing. They are no longer convincing themselves that forgetting you is the only path forward. Instead, they are finally accepting something they have been avoiding for a very long time. A part of their heart never stopped caring. A part of their heart never stopped wondering. A part of their heart never truly let you go. My beloved child, there are certain people who enter our lives and leave a mark that time cannot erase. There are certain connections that remain alive because they were meant to teach us something deeper about ourselves. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that this connection may be one of those rare and unforgettable experiences. They have begun looking at the past differently. Instead of seeing only the distance, they remember the joy. Instead of remembering only the silence, they remember the understanding. Instead of focusing on what was lost, they remember what was real. And because of this, another change has taken place within them. Fear is slowly losing its power. Honesty is becoming stronger. Hope is returning. My child, they do not yet know exactly what will happen next. They do not know where this journey leads. They do not know whether your paths will cross again, or how the story will unfold. But they do know one thing. They can no longer pretend that nothing remains. They can no longer ignore what their heart has been trying to say. They can no longer deny the truth that has followed them through dreams, memories, and unexpected signs. Because the truth is simple. You changed something inside them. You became a memory that never completely faded. You became a chapter they could never fully close. And now, after all this time, they are finally admitting it to themselves. They still care. They still wonder. They still carry your memory. And somewhere deep within their heart, a quiet decision is beginning to form. A decision to stop running. A decision to stop hiding. A decision to finally listen to what their heart has been whispering all along. Because what they discovered was not another coincidence, and not another dream. It was the truth they had been avoiding for so long. They never truly forgot you. They never truly stopped caring. And now, for the first time in a very long time, they are no longer asking whether this connection mattered. They are asking themselves what happens if they finally have the courage to follow their heart.